Hey, welcome to the Extra Point Show. Thanks for joining us again. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe for weekly content. Helps us out, and we definitely appreciate it. If you're fans
Absolutely.
of either the Niners or the Commanders, remember to check out the Niners news segment or the Commanders countdown. But first, we're going to get into week one. Real football's back. Hell
Yeah.
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 Cover some of the
Officially,
games and the scores that happened.
we've got 1 week and one game in the books with the Thursday night game just happening last night.
Right.
So we'll get into that. So where do you want to start for this first slate of games?
I mean, I guess we should start with the first game, the Bills-Rams game, which
Okay.
was
Sounds good. The
which was
season
great,
opener.
I think. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, and the way it played out, 31-10 Bills over the Rams, beating the Super Bowl champs. Can't ask for a better game for them.
Yeah, I remember when we talked about it last week, right before the game happened, I was like, I think that game could be 34-31. And potentially it could have been if the Rams got off the bus. Apparently only one team showed up,
Yeah.
to SoFi. And obviously the Rams, as we know, play historically bad at home. They often don't have home field advantage in their own building, as evidenced by, the Niners and being called Levi's South, which was hilarious. But Josh Allen made a couple mistakes. He threw 2 picks, but he also threw 3 touchdowns, had just under 300 yards. He was also the leading rusher with 56 rushing yards and a touchdown. So Josh Allen earning that money. Diggs had 8 catches, 122 yards, 1 touchdown. So he went off as you'd expect. Stafford threw 3 picks. So obviously, Stafford, he had a great season last year on the way to the Super Bowl, but a lot of people forget that on the way to that, he threw 17 interceptions last year, which led the NFL. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, he
Damn.
won a Super Bowl, but Stafford's never been a guy that's been shy to throw interceptions.
I'll be honest,
that's for sure.
I didn't realize I forgot about that. That's
Yeah.
a lot of interceptions, man. Like, shit.
I didn't forget because I enjoyed watching a lot of those interceptions thrown. So yeah, the Rams are 0-1. The Bills starting off 1-0. So I expected the Bills to be a pretty good football team, and that's been evidenced as well. Also want to bring up the fact that Bills defense sacked Matt Stafford 7 times. With Von Miller, the newly acquired pass rusher and former Ram, he won a Super Bowl over there just last year. He got 2 sacks in his debut with the Bills, and the Rams got 2 sacks themselves. One coming from Aaron Donald, surprise, surprise, and then the other one coming from Bobby Wagner, their new acquisition from the Hawks. So
Man, to get sacked 7 times in one
7
game,
times.
That had to be a rough day for Matty Stafford.
7 times, sacked 7 times and picked 3 and picked 3. And I started
God.
the Bills defense in fantasy, and they got me 18 points.
Nice.
18
That
points,
was a
boy.
good choice.
Yeah.
Damn,
I
man, that's
knew
awful.
Buffalo was going to have a good team. Let's go Buffalo. Let's
I
get
imagine
it.
that the Rams are gonna figure it out and come back and be.
Oh,
a decent
I'd
team, I would
imagine
think.
so, but we play
Must have
them
been an off
twice
week.
early in the season, so
Hopefully it stays like this
hopefully-
at least for now. Like,
yeah, hopefully. And Cooper Kupp went off. I mean, he was really the Rams' best weapon as
128 yards, 13 catches, and 1 touchdown. Yeah, he definitely did. He had a hell of a day.
He's pretty much like what Devontae Adams was for the Packers last season.
Yeah.
And the next game here, let's see, we've got Miami, New England. Yeah, let's talk about this one real quick. So, Miami, New England. Miami came away with a 20-7 win in former Niner offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel's head coaching debut against division rival Patriots. I don't think it's like a huge surprise that the Dolphins won, but like the fact that they won in the manner that they did was kind of surprising. I mean, these games often come down to like a 23-20. I mean, the Dolphins-Patriots games are always close.
Yeah, I would not have expected a 20-7. That's kind of a blowout. I mean, not entirely, but
Yeah, it's 2 scores for sure. Yeah. So, and notable in that game, Mac Jones apparently he didn't leave the game at any point, but he was suffering from back spasms, He's been taken off the injury
shit.
report, so he's expected to be fine. He's going to start this weekend, but yeah, that was.
Was this the game that Tua had the throw that was like really, really, really bad, like 10 yards behind the receiver?
To Tyreek,
yeah.
Yeah.
Tyreek's missing Patrick, that's for sure. Oh my god.
Yeah. So Tua,
I know they still won, but like that pass that's one of the worst passes I think I've seen in the NFL in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean Tua for the day his numbers looked all right, but yeah, that pass was part of it. He was 23 of 33, 270 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no picks, and he got sacked 3 times. Mac Jones was 21 of 30, 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And let's see. Tyreek in his debut, let's just mention that. He had 8 catches for
94 yards. Like
exactly.
Not bad. It's pretty good. I mean, he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes anymore, so
no.
It's pretty good numbers for him.
Targeted 12 times. You know, our boy Raheem had 5 carries for 16 yards.
Raheem the Dream.
1 catch for 16 yards, so good for Raheem. And yeah, the Patriots just couldn't get going offensively, and I think you know, for the day let me get you the total yards here. For the day they ended up putting up let's see here, 271 total yards. So interesting note about the Patriots is the fact that, and I know we've talked about this before, that they don't have an offensive coordinator, not a true offensive coordinator anyway, because obviously Josh McDaniel is now the head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. So Bill Belichick elected to not hire a true offensive coordinator. Instead, he's going with almost like a coordinator by committee type deal, where he's got Matt Patricia, who's always been a defensive coordinator and the former Lions head coach, and Joe Judge, the former Giants head coach, as, you know, almost like dueling offensive coordinators. And he's elected to, you know, not name a true offensive coordinator or play caller. So I don't know if they're just like both calling in the plays, but you know, it begs the question, is that affecting their play on the field? Because obviously only 271 yards being produced and 7 points.
That's pretty bad.
Great.
That's an odd thing to do. I mean, to have 2 of them, maybe just pick one person and make him the offensive coordinator. What is this 2-person bullshit that he's doing?
Yeah,
although it's Bill Belichick, you never know. You know, well, maybe it'll turn out to be good.
That's what I was gonna say. You know, it's never been, you know. It's hard to question Bill after the track record that he's had, but I mean, this is something he's never done before in his, you know, long storied NFL career. So, yeah, it's interesting as to why he's doing it. I wonder how long that's going to go on for. But obviously, if they start off, you know, 0-2, 0-3, I mean, obviously he's going to have to make some kind of a change.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you watch any of this the Saints Falcons game? Because I did not see any of that one.
So, what I know about the Saints-Falcons game is I know that at one point the Falcons were up on the Saints by a lot.
Okay.
And the Saints came rallying back. Yeah, it was at one point, it was 16-7 Falcons. So I guess I wouldn't say a lot, but 2 scores. And then the Saints came rolling back. At one point, Jameis Winston had 53 yards passing into like the 3rd or 4th quarter. It was really late into the game, and then he ended up having like a really explosive, you know.
Oh, that's right. I remember hearing about that. Yeah, I heard about that on the radio. Actually, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, like he had nothing for 3 quarters and then just went off.
Yeah, I was wondering if, you know, like maybe the LASIK surgery. Yeah, because he finished with 269 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I was starting to think that maybe he was having, you know, issues with maybe the LASIK surgery that he had. I was like, is he just, you know, having difficulties again? And obviously this was their first game under Dennis Allen, their new head coach, who's replacing Sean Payton. So, yeah, I mean, it looked like they were going to take the loss for sure to the division rival Falcons. But, you know, Jameis led the rally. I mean, Taysom Hill was the leading rusher with 4 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown, with a 57-yard touchdown run.
Nice.
Kamara had 39 yards on 9 carries, which they probably should have given him more carries, but I think they were down for a large portion of the game. So usually when that happens, you're not running the ball.
Right.
He did catch 3 passes, but usually he catches more than that, so that's kind of surprising. I know you've got him on your fantasy team, so I'm sure you would have liked to see him do more work.
Yeah, I have the Rams, I think, receiver on my bench, and he got like 25 points. I can't remember his name offhand, but I was looking at that earlier, and I was like, son of a bitch.
Was it Cooper Kupp?
No, it's let me look, because now it's gonna bug me.
I'm trying to think of who else would have had a good game for them other than Cooper Kupp.
It's like M something. I can't remember who he is off the top of my head. It's only week 2. Williams for the Chargers. I'm sorry, not the Rams.
Oh, Mike Williams. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
Okay. Yeah.
The Chargers and the Rams, sometimes in my head I get mixed up with that. I don't know why.
They're both from LA, so
that's probably why then. Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Mike Williams just went off last night on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
And then let's see here. So, yeah, the Saints coming away with a win over the Falcons, and I believe that they play. I think the Saints play the Buccaneers in week 2, if I'm correct, which is another divisional game. Yeah, they play the Bucs.
Yes, they do, because I heard it on the radio in Tampa area, so that's definitely...
Yeah, so they start off with 2 straight divisional games there. So, obviously, Tom Brady's going to be a little bit tougher than Marcus Mariota for the Falcons.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that goes. But
you mean the Saints?
Yeah, exactly. And worth noting here, both of those teams did, and we'll talk more about this in a couple weeks, but they did both possess one of the first round rookie receivers that were really hyped. One being Chris Olave for the Saints. In his NFL debut, he had 3 catches for 41 yards on 3 targets. And on the Falcons side of things, Drake London out of USC, 5 catches for 74 yards on 7 targets. So not bad effort for both of those young men. Just figured I'd mention that.
Yeah, we'll talk about the rookie receivers in a few more weeks.
Yeah.
Compare how they've played out once there's a little bit more to go off of.
Definitely. Now, this next one, I'm not going to get too into it right now. If you're into knowing more about the Niners segment, you can definitely check out the Niners news update later on in the episode. But the Niners, unfortunately, did start off 0-1 to the Chicago Bears with a 19-10 loss. Now, like I said, we'll get more into that later, but the conditions were awful in that game and probably not very suitable for a football game to be played. But yeah,
I haven't seen a game with that level of rain. Like the guys, they go down and they're just splashing like an entire.
Yeah,
I don't even know what the measurement is, but a shitload of water, like they're soaking wet. It's like, that has got to be dangerous as hell.
Yeah, I mean the 2 comparisons that I would think of, there's been 2 games that I can think of that we've had in recent seasons. One last year against the Colts when we lost, and then the one from a couple seasons ago where we played Washington.
Washington, yeah, that one sucked. That was
both of those were rough games. Yeah. So, then the next game we have here.
The biggest game of the week, I would say, the Steelers-Bengals game.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that one. That was probably the most exciting game.
Mm-hmm. I caught the end of that after the Commanders game had ended because it was at the bar. So, and I'm looking at the TV over while at the end of the Commanders game, and I see they're missing multiple extra point attempts. I'm like, what the fuck is going on in that game?
Yeah. So notable in that game was the fact that I think a lot of people just think that Evan McPherson, who I'm a big fan of, obviously Evan Big Balls McPherson. Obviously last year he kicked the Bengals with multiple 50-plus yard field goals into the Super Bowl. So big fan of him. I have him on my fantasy team. And the reason for the missed extra points, a lot of people probably don't know this, but they talked about it a little bit on the game. His long snapper was out, so they had a backup long snapper. And the snap on the extra point was a little bit high, which fucked up the hold and made the kick sail right. So that it was just poor from an execution standpoint. So Evan McPherson's solid as hell.
Yeah, the Steelers had the same problem though in overtime. They both missed. Wasn't it 2 attempts each, or was it just one on one side? Two for the Bengals and one for the Steelers. I don't remember, but I remember them watching a bunch of kicks get missed in overtime.
Yeah. So basically, in the course of like 6 minutes,
perfect description because.
And here, I'll pull it up right now. Like, because a lot happened. Like, T.J. Watt potentially tore his pec. That was the thing that happened. He's their top defensive player. Former defensive player of the year. T.J. Watt potentially. I mean, he could come back at some point this season, but potentially tearing his pec in the first game of the season. He's going to get a second opinion. In the overtime period, both teams missed a field goal. Evan McPherson missed one first. From a 29-yarder.
Oh
wow.
My God.
I didn't realize it was that short. Yeah, that.
Oh yeah, I remember watching that. That was one of the ones I watched it, and it was so far off to the left, just terrible. I think it was the snap or something that was what caused that.
Yeah. So it must have been that. And then Boswell had an attempt from 55 yards, and then he missed when it hit the upright. And then the Bengals had another chance, but they would have to punt. And then the Steelers obviously got the ball back, and Boswell got another opportunity, this time from 53 yards, and he nailed the game. But it was a crazy ending. I mean, with all the missed kicks, T.J. Watt potentially, having a torn pec, he's seeking a second opinion. And they also had Najee Harris leave the game with a knee injury, but he's supposed to be okay and he's supposed to play. But if he's out, then that's like a very large portion of their offense.
Yeah, and I don't think the Steelers are going to be anything that special. I mean, they did win the game, but like you said, Joe Burrow threw 4 picks, sacked 7 times, and it came down to an overtime field goal, which after both teams missed one, it's just like, both teams, goddamn, like...
Yeah, I mean,
I bet on the Bengals to win more games than the Steelers after that, even though they won the game. I know that's odd, but...
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it. I mean, seemed like there were a lot of self-inflicted wounds. From the standpoint on the Bengals, obviously their protection was bad if they're allowing 7 sacks. That or the Steelers' pass rush is just that good, which I guess is possible as well. But we know when Burrow came in as a rookie, he was sacked like the second most times ever. So obviously, him getting sacked a lot's not a new thing. We thought they shored up that offensive line, but apparently not. But
yeah,
you're probably right from a standpoint. The Bengals do have a better team now.
Right.
Trubisky didn't play bad though. I mean, he ended up he played like a game manager role in the game.
That's what he is basically. I mean, shit.
Yeah, he's
that's
just
what they
in there
usually
until...
do with backups. I mean, backups generally that's kind of their role anyways. Just manage the game and don't lose for us basically.
He's just in there until Tomlin's ready to give the reins to Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
I
am excited to see what happens with him. I have no love for the Steelers, but I like to see what happens with Kenny Pickett.
He's supposed to be really good, so we'll see.
I keep hearing.
He lit it up in the preseason, so
yeah,
we'll have to see.
For once, I'm actually looking forward to see something on the Steelers because I do want to see how he does. We got the Ravens Jets games, and just real quickly, some Ravens related news. I'm sure most of you are aware, but Lamar Jackson turned down a massive deal. I think it was about $250 million with $130 guaranteed or something like that.
Yeah,
those aren't exact numbers, but
That.
roughly. And apparently he wants, because Deshaun Watson got that fully guaranteed $230 million contract that Lamar wants to now hold out and probably try and get a guaranteed contract like that. So I thought that was a little ridiculous. I mean, Deshaun Watson should never have gotten that contract in the first place. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the hell the Browns, what crack they're smoking over there in their front office, but
it ruined the market, dude. It really did.
I mean, dude, and for someone like Deshaun Watson, after all the shit that he went through, and he hasn't even been proven to be good, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would even argue that the time that we've seen him play, he's looked, not even not good, but just downright bad. I mean, now I think he'll be fine. The last time he was in there for a full season, he led the league in, damn near everything. But that's been 2 seasons now. And by the time he comes back, it's going to be week 12. So we'll have to see. We'll get into the Browns game here in a second. But, that is pretty insane. I mean, that definitely did not do any favors for the quarterback market. And, I mean, for a large portion of this game, it was. I mean, the Ravens were up, but I think they were up like a field goal for a large portion of the game. They were up like only 3-0.
Just for the first quarter, and then they scored another 7, and then 14 in the third. So.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he ended up throwing 3 touchdown passes and 1 pick. Only 213 yards, though. But I think more notably was the fact that he only ran for 17 yards on 6 carries. So
yeah, that is odd because usually, he has some lower pass yards because he's oftentimes running a lot. So it's weird to see him only have that low rushing yards with that low passing yards. But I mean, hey, they got the win, 24-9. I mean, if you can't really nothing you can say if you get the win by that much.
Yeah, exactly. And then Flacco on the other side of it threw up 59 pass attempts.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
37 for 59. Like, god damn.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously not usually a recipe for victory in the NFL. Usually, if you have to throw that much, it's in a losing effort. But yeah, definitely, and to only get 9 points out of that, I mean, obviously the Ravens defense is what it is, but you would definitely expect a little bit more than 9 points, I would think.
Well, it is the Jets.
Yeah, it's true, and obviously they're still without probably Zach Wilson for about 3 more weeks. And they had, let's talk about some of their receivers. They had Garrett Wilson, who's one of the other first-round receivers. He had 4 catches for 52 yards in his first game. And Mark Andrews catching 5 passes for 52 yards. Lamar's, always his favorite target. Yeah. Yeah. And, I know we talked about this last week in a segment, but, talking about Ravens fantasy running backs and how they have like almost no value. Kenyon Drake did lead the charge for Ravens running backs with 11 carries, but only 31 yards. So only a 2.8 yard average. Mike Davis only had 2 carries and Justice Hill had 2. J.K. Dobbins, who we talked about, didn't even play.
Well, it sounds like your assessment was correct then. Stay away from the Ravens running backs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too risky. I mean, nobody's, even though Kenyon Drake got all that work, I mean, he really didn't produce anything.
It's so weird. Lamar only had 17 yards rushing. That's odd.
Yeah,
that's like.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens only had as a team 63 yards rushing when last year they averaged almost 200 yards a game, which led the NFL. So,
wow.
I'm sure they'll get it on track. I mean, unless this is going to be the new algorithm for victory is to, throw the ball. But they didn't do that particular. I mean, they only had 213 passing yards, so it's not exactly like they lit it up through the air.
No, it'll be interesting to see how they play in the coming weeks because, they won that game by a good amount, but it's not a very good team that they played.
Right.
And based on their numbers, they didn't really put up good numbers, but so see how that goes.
Yeah, and, as far as their next opponent, it looks like they have the Dolphins next. So the 1-0 Dolphins. So they'll present more offensive challenges.
Yeah.
So then we've got the Lions and the Eagles. The Eagles at one point were up, I think it was like 31-14 on the Lions. It looked like, they were just about to just handle the Lions. And the Lions ended up coming back with an inspiring comeback. Obviously, they did fall a little bit short, but they lost 38-35. So definitely a good offensive effort. Their defense allowed 38 points, so that's not great. But
the offense but to come back from that much of a deficit, and also the defense did kind of play well in the end because they held them, somewhat. They had 31 points.
That's true.
That's true. In the second quarter, and they only got to 38. So the defense kind of stepped up after a bit.
And they did shut out Philly in the fourth quarter, so that's true. That is true. And
so, I mean, the defense only played like a quarter, I guess, but at least they did something there.
That's true. That is true. Goff, obviously the second-year Lions starter, threw for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Jalen Hurts had 243 yards passing and 90 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown.
Wow.
The Eagles
Damn.
ran for 216 yards and, wow, 4 rushing touchdowns. Okay. So they balled out on the ground.
Oh my God, I'm not looking forward to playing the Eagles.
Yeah, it's going to be a physical game. New acquisition, A.J. Brown, that they got from the Titans, caught 10 passes for 155 yards in his Eagles debut. The Lions killed it on the ground too. They had 181 yards themselves. I mean, they've got that two-headed running back attack of DeAndre Swift, who we really like. Obviously, he came up well for us on the Madden team. But DeAndre Swift, 15 carries, 144 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jamal Williams, 11 carries, 28 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. So the Lions' back's getting it done.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully they don't the next game.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's true. You guys have them this week. So obviously playing an improved Lions team. But you guys got a win over an improved Jacksonville team, which I guess, let's get into that real quick. Just briefly.
28-22 Commanders, which we needed that win, being it was our first game.
First game as the Commanders. Yeah, starting.
We'll talk more about this game in the Commanders.
Absolutely.
Countdown, but Wentz did throw 4 touchdowns. He came back and beat the Jags after he looked good in the beginning, kind of slowed down a bit, and then luckily in the fourth quarter he kind of came back and made things happen.
Yeah. Wentz is the first Washington quarterback since Billy Kilmer in 1975 to throw 4 touchdowns in a season opener.
He also threw a touchdown on the opening drive for him, which as you know, the last few years, we're usually a second half team, not a first half team. So this was an odd experience to do well in the beginning and then kind of fall apart and then come back.
Do you think Jim Irsay, because the Colts didn't win, they tied. Do you think Jim Irsay, seeing Carson Wentz win, he's like, ugh, he's pissed because he sent Carson down the river?
I think he made a mistake getting rid of Carson. Honestly,
yeah.
He had great. Was it 27 touchdowns to 7 picks last season? Why the hell would you get rid of him?
Yeah. Yeah, he had 27 touchdown passes last year. Yeah, he had a real good year.
Yeah.
Browns-Panthers game. Baker's attempted revenge game that didn't quite work out. He almost led the comeback though. It was a 26-24 Browns win. But they were down a lot more than that. I think they were down at one point 17, or I think it was 20-7 at one point. And Baker led
It was 20-7. You're correct.
Yeah, and then Baker led the comeback. Obviously, fell a little bit short. But what ended up happening was they Cade York, the Cleveland Browns rookie 4th round kicker, at the buzzer kicked a 58-yard field goal to lift them to victory. So, and then the Browns put something out on their Twitter page that was that's why you draft a kicker. Which, it's true.
The Browns can't they can't troll anyone. That's, they can't. They absolutely can't. That organization right now. Funny they think they can be cute, but I don't know. After that Deshaun Watson contract, I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
It's a tough look for sure. And then Baker started off real slow. For the day he finished 16-27, 235 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception in his attempted revenge game. Jacoby Brissett was 18-34 for 147 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. So, I would say Baker outplayed Jacoby Brissett. He did have the 1 pick, but I think Jacoby Brissett was helped out by 217 rushing yards and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And McCaffrey didn't really have a huge role in this game. I know he came in a little bit banged up. He had a cut on his leg. So surprise, surprise, he's already coming into the season injured. He did play and get through the game, but he had 10 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown and 4 catches for 24 yards. So not the production you'd expect out of him. Yeah, exactly. Usually, you'd expect him to contribute more, but only 14 touches there. Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, the Panthers didn't look good for most of that game and then ended up having to rally late The Browns didn't look particularly good either, but they looked better than the Panthers, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, and then the next game was a tie between the division rivals Colts and Texans. Obviously, those teams usually put up quite an underwhelming game, but it was the debut of Matt Ryan in a Colts uniform. He ended up throwing the football 50 times for 352 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He actually got outplayed by Davis Mills, though, who was 23 of 37, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Game went to overtime, and unfortunately, neither team was able to come away with a win. So they, Rodrigo Blankenship, the kicker, ended up missing a field goal attempt, and he ended up getting cut. He had an opportunity to win in overtime.
Ooh.
And missed and got cut after just one game. So he's
that
been
game
the kicker.
was crazy. I saw bits and pieces of it while I was at the bar, and like it was 20-3 at one point, and then the Colts get 17 points to come back, and then no one can score at overtime. That's just like that big of a difference in score for to end in a tie is just nuts.
Yeah, and it was a 42-yard attempt that he missed, and he's been the Colts kicker since I think like 2020. So obviously, Irsay's got no patience with anybody. I mean, Carson.
I'd be afraid
season,
to play for the Colts. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like if you have a bad game, he's done. I mean, Jonathan Taylor went off though, 31 carries, 161, and 1 touchdown. Nobody's surprised by that.
Wow.
I mean, he's a great player. Oh, and OJ Howard, who we talked about them getting from the. Remember we talked about OJ Howard getting cut last week from Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In his debut with the Texans, 2 catches, 38 yards, 2 touchdowns. So
Jesus,
he caught 2 touchdowns on his only 2 passes. So paying immediate dividends.
Not a good amount of yards or catches, but damn, bro, you can't argue with 14 points.
Yeah, I mean, you got to love it if you're a Texans fan, just getting that acquisition. You're like, oh damn, I'm happy we picked this guy up. And just got cut by the Bills at cut down time, and we just happened to get him. That is a hell of an acquisition. And
absolutely.
This game, probably the breakdown of the week. It looked like the Titans were well on their way to a 20-0, or at least 13-0 win over the Giants. Didn't have any points in the first half. Yeah, and then led a ferocious comeback behind Danny Dimes.
Goddamn Giants.
Yeah, definitely a not ideal because obviously every team in the NFC East except for the Cowboys coming away with the win. And
the Cowboys also didn't even score a touchdown in their game. They're the only team in the NFL.
Yeah,
that didn't, which is I love that.
Yeah, after being the NFL's top scoring offense last year, they didn't score a touchdown this week. So this year so far through one game, they have the NFL's worst scoring offense thus far.
Yep.
But I think what's most notable in this game is obviously the fact that the Titans couldn't get anything going in the second half of the game. And the fact that Saquon, who for the last few seasons has been so injured, and it seemed like when he has played, he's just looked terrible. But Saquon went off with 18 carries for 164 yards and 1 touchdown. He averaged 9.1 yards a carry. So it's safe to say that Saquon Barkley is back in true form. Yeah. Derrick Henry had 82 yards, so Saquon had a better game than Derrick Henry.
By a lot. By twice as much.
By quite a bit.
Wait, did you say 82? That's literally half as much.
Yeah. 82, yeah. Exactly. And then the Vikings coming away with a 23-7 win over the Packers in a game where the Packers couldn't get anything going. It's the second straight season after they lost to the Saints in the opener last year, where the Packers have just looked terrible week one. Now, I will note that obviously it worked out fine and the Packers ended up still having a great season last year, so that's still entirely possible. But the loss of Devontae Adams definitely looks like it hurt. I mean, Aaron had no true the top receiver they had was their running back, A.J. Dillon, 5 catches, 46 yards. The top receiver
Damn.
they had caught 4 passes for 37 yards. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, in his debut with the Raiders, Devontae Adams caught 10 passes for like 150 yards and a touchdown for Derek Carr. So,
Aaron's missing him.
yeah, you absolutely know it. On the other side, Kirk's cousin had Justin Jefferson, who led all fantasy football players in points. I'm very happy to have him on my fantasy team. He led the fantasy.
Of course you have him on your team, the best in the NFL this week.
Yeah, so he ended up putting up 39.4 points with
damn.
Yeah, so that was a good acquisition. 9 catches, 184 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Oh my god! What's the average on that? Like 20 yards a catch?
20.4. Yeah.
Oh my god!
With a long of 64. The Vikings' next best receiver, Adam Thielen, 3 catches for 36 yards. So Kirk's cousin fed that in. Yeah. So
Wow.
Kirk Cousins, 23 of 32, 277 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, under new coach Kevin McConnell's offense. So far, looking good under the new coach's offense. I mean, Zimmer was always a defensive guy, so now Kirk Cousins has an offensive-minded head coach, so we'll see what that means. But not a great start for the Packers. They obviously ended up putting in Jordan Love at one point in the game, just because it was so out of reach at that point. Obviously, nothing to worry about from that standpoint. Aaron's not going to lose his job, but
No.
In a meaningless game, obviously nothing to gain by having him in there, obviously. And what else do we have here, bud?
We got the Chiefs and Cardinals. The Chiefs just stomped all over the Cardinals. Mahomes threw 5 touchdowns.
Oh my god, yeah.
I mean, nothing too surprising. He was 30 for 39, 360 yards with 5 touchdowns.
I had this discussion the other day. I was like, so what team do you think is going to be the worst in the AFC West? I had this conversation with some friends, and they were like, well, I think, maybe the Chiefs might be the worst team in the AFC West. Obviously, talking about the fact that they've lost some guys on the offensive line and Tyreek, but not having Tyreek anymore has obviously not hurt Mahomes. He went out and he absolutely, 5 touchdowns, 339 yards or 360 yards. Kelsey had 121 yards receiving and a touchdown. Clyde Edwards-Helaire ended up having 2 receiving touchdowns. Juju Smith in the opener had 79 yards. So they found guys to go to with the football. I mean, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, former Packer, 4 catches, 44 yards. On the other side, Kyler struggled. I mean, his first game after getting that new contract, I mean, their offense was they scored 21 points, but 14 of that came in the fourth quarter when the game was already out of reach. So
yeah, the Chiefs were obviously dialing it back and weren't, going hard at that point. They won.
Yeah, just not giving up anything big over the top, so he was probably able to get a lot of cheap completions.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Kyler was the leading Cardinals rusher with 29 rushing yards, but that's not saying much because obviously they didn't produce great on the ground. New acquisition, Marquise Hollywood Brown, who they traded a first-round pick to the Ravens for, had 4 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown in his Ravens debut. Obviously, the Cardinals are playing without DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games for the PED suspension that we've talked about before. But I mean, I thought every team in the West was going to lose, and we'll get into this one next. It seemed like, we lost, the Cardinals lost, the Rams lost. So I was like, okay, well, the Seahawks are definitely going to lose. The Seahawks are the worst team in the division. And then the Seahawks came out and and they beat, a team that we thought was going to be pretty good in the Denver Broncos, a team that I personally thought might be, with that defense from last year ranking
and picking up Russell
Wilson with the good receivers and running backs they have. I thought they would potentially win the West. I really did, and they still could. It's only week 2, so definitely still early to rule them out. But I mean, Russ in his debut, pretty good numbers: 29 of 42, 340 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. But only 16 points is the telling story. Geno on the other side, 23 of 28, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Or 2 touchdowns, no picks. So Geno played a real good game. What I want to talk about in this game is the Broncos had an opportunity to win this game. They were facing a 4th and 5 at the end of the game, down 16-17, and they had the ball last. And I don't know if you ended up seeing this, but what they ended up doing, and this was Nathaniel Hackett's debut as an NFL head coach. He's the former Packers offensive coordinator. He sent Brandon McManus, who's one of the strongest legged kickers in the NFL, but he sent Brandon McManus out for a 64-yard field goal attempt facing a 4th and 5. So
what the fuck?
So you've got Russell Wilson there, who you paid all this money to, who can easily, I've seen Russell pick up countless 4th and 5s over the years. So here's what he does, bud. In his debut game, they've got, about 50 seconds, right? So Russell completes the pass to Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams, one of their running backs in the flat, and he gets tackled inbounds. So they're running up to the line, and you would think that they're going to take a timeout, right? Because they've got these timeouts left. So you would think they're going to take a timeout.
Do they have timeouts still?
Yeah. So but Nathaniel Hackett doesn't take a timeout. He lets the clock roll down to 20 seconds. And Peyton Manning, you know how Peyton and Eli do the do the Monday Night Football commentary?
Yeah.
And Peyton's like, take a timeout here. He's like, Eli, why aren't they taking a timeout? Peyton's about to have a fucking aneurysm because Peyton's like, what's going on? And Peyton, of course, won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. So Peyton's like Broncos country hard. So he's like,
yeah, absolutely,
take the fucking timeout. And they let the clock roll down to 20 seconds, and then they take the timeout, and then they trot out their kicker. Whereas if they would have taken the timeout with 50 seconds, they could have gotten a good play call in. Possibly converted the 4th and 5, gotten closer for an actual makeable field goal. Obviously, the
64 yards,
Obviously,
64, right?
Yeah, the 64-yard field goal, obviously was way off the mark. Didn't even get close. And McManus has the leg. I mean, he's kicked a 61-yard field goal before. But I mean, that's that's a big ask to just come in. You can't just bang 60-yard field goals all the time. But yeah, obviously he was questioned heavily about that decision, and obviously after the game he's like, "Yeah, should have just gone for it." It's like, well, no shit. No shit. So questionable coaching could potentially be blamed in that one because it's. The Broncos could have potentially had the win at the end of the game, but this first week of football was rather interesting. A lot of the teams, you'd expect the Packers, the Niners to win, and they didn't. Obviously you'd expect the Broncos to win, they didn't. So things definitely not helping, not necessarily going the way that you would think. Last game here was the Buccaneers Cowboys. I know that one you're going to be excited about.
Yeah, I was real happy about hearing about that.
Yeah. Both teams didn't look as good offensively as I thought they would. I don't know if Tom's taking a break away from football played a role in the Buccaneers only scoring 19 points. But the Cowboys do have a pretty good defense. I know Micah Parsons sacked Tom twice, and of course Skip was ecstatic about that.
He needs something to be ecstatic about after that shit.
I remember I sent you that clip where Skip was really excited. He's like, we held the Buccaneers to 19 points. He's like, we're going to the NFC Championship game. I was like,
Dak's thumb is broken now. Yeah, needs surgery.
So if you didn't see it, Dak obviously took a Buccaneers Buccaneers defensive player's hand to the hand. He definitely got hit in the thumb. There was I guess a clean break. Originally they were saying that he was supposed to be out about 6 to 8 weeks, but I guess now it's looking more optimistic, like he could only miss 4 weeks. So the Cowboys are electing to not put him on IR so that he can practice with the team and they can potentially bring him back. But obviously they're going to be going with Cooper Rush down the stretch. So definitely, an opportunity to get up, a few games in Dallas early in the season here, because obviously this is the opportunity to do it. But even with Dak in there, they didn't look very explosive. I mean, this is the number one offense in the NFL last season, and they produced 3 points. So
I'm happy about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've got to be as anybody that's not a Dallas fan, I'm sure is. Leonard Fournette on the other side had his best game as a Buccaneer with 21 carries for 127 yards, averaged 6 yards a carry. Tom Brady was 18 of 27, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He was sacked twice by Micah Parsons, as we mentioned. Julio Jones in his first game with the Bucs had 3 catches for 69 yards, so 23 yard per catch average. So Julio Jones looked as good as he's looked in the last couple seasons. I mean, he looked back to, old Atlanta Falcons Julio Jones form. I mean, he looked really good. So if the Buccaneers can get that offense going, I mean, obviously they only scored 1 touchdown in that game. Tom threw a touchdown to Mike Evans. And they also had Chris Godwin go down with an injury. I mean, he tore his ACL last year, and he came in and played in this game, had 3 catches, 35 yards, but left with a knee injury. So obviously that's not good. So hopefully that's nothing super serious and they can get him back. Worth mentioning here is that for the first time since 2007, no rookie quarterbacks started opening weekend in the NFL. Obviously, the only places that was even a possibility was really Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett and maybe Atlanta with Desmond Ridder. But both of those teams going with, respectively, Mitchell Trubisky and Marcus Mariota. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of telling. That was the last time that happened in 2007. So kind of an interesting stat there. I wanted to bring that up. Because usually, it seems like there's at least a rookie or 3 starting every NFL season. So definitely worthwhile note there.
Yeah, there's usually a team out there that needs that help, and they don't think the veterans that are out there are going to help them more than they need. So it's like, I'll take the gamble, start the rookie. But this quarterback draft class wasn't particularly great, so that might have had something to do with it.
And both of those teams did elect to pursue quarterback in free agency as well, because that's how they got Trubisky and Mariota in free agency right before. So obviously, electing to go with that guy. But I wouldn't be surprised to see at any point both of those guys take over at some point during the season.
At least to get an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. And that's going to do it for the Extra Point Show this week. Hope you enjoyed our recap of the week's NFL action. Join us next week, and if you're not already, make sure you like and subscribe for more content.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good night.